All right, everybody, welcome to the 378th edition of the Holy Backboard Podcast. I am Dustin here in Rip City, and I got my man.
Sage here in Beaverton, Oregon, ready to talk about Dalton Knecht. I think you and I both agree that he is absolutely a flamethrower in college and is doing some really impressive things on the offensive end. So I'm ready. He has a long history, so I'm ready to hear you talk about it.
Dalton Knecht is a senior forward from the University of Tennessee. The Volunteers are a two seed in the upcoming NCAA tournament. Knecht is 6'6", weighs 213 pounds, is 22 years of age, turns 23 in April, a week before my birthday, from Thornton, Colorado, and he has an interesting path to Tennessee. He was at a junior college, Northeastern Junior College in Colorado, for 2 years. Then he went to the University of Northern Colorado for 2 years, and he took advantage of that COVID season, which basically gave every collegiate athlete who participated during 2020 basically a free year of eligibility. So, because of that extra year of eligibility, he put his name in the transfer portal, hopped on over to the University of Tennessee, and has just been a revelation, leading the Tennessee Volunteers really to one of the more prominent teams in the SEC and the entire NCAA. Had just a magnificent season for the Vols, basically a consensus first team All American, NABC first team All American, AP, USBWA All American. I'm sure once more of the other All American teams come out, he's going to be on the first team. Unanimous and coaches 2024 SEC Player of the Year. This is a guy who put up 25 points per game in SEC play. Overall for the entire season up to the big dance. Played in 32 games for Tennessee, getting 30 minutes a night, averaging 21.1 points on 46.5% shooting from the field on just over 15 attempts per game, shooting damn near 40% from three on over 6 attempts from downtown, gets to the line 5.7 times per night, shooting 76.4%, grabs 4.7 rebounds, hands out 1.8 assists. We'll throw in about 0.7 blocks and 0.7 steals. For all of his usage, only turns the ball over 1.7 times per game. True shooting, 58.4%, a PER of 24.4, and Tankathon projects his NBA three-point range to be 37.8. Tankathon has him 16th on their big board. The Ringer 14th, but I am much higher on Dalton Knecht. He has been just an absolute magician this year, I would say. It's just some staggering numbers. 37 points in Chapel Hill against the Tar Heels of North Carolina, where he shot 13 of 17 from the floor.
One seed too.
39 against Auburn, where again he got to the line 12 times. 40 against Kentucky in a losing cause, but I watched that game
That
live.
game rocked so
He
hard,
did
bro.
everything he could to keep his team available and afloat. Just
Do you think it was bad coaching in that Tennessee Kentucky game? They didn't get him the ball in the last minute and a half of
no,
game
he was
time.
gassed. They had to rest him for a while because he was so tired from. I mean, he was just doing everything he can do. And as you listen to this episode, as you go back and watch, YouTube scouting reports, highlights, if you can get your hand on some full games or even partial clips,
And the tournament itself, they're probably gonna make.
context is key. Yes, Tennessee has a solid team, but don't get it twisted. Dalton Knecht is the number one, the number two, the number three option for this volunteer team. Any defense that he saw this year and in the upcoming tournament will be keyed to stopping him,
Mhm.
not only with one, but with every person will have eyes on Dalton Knecht. It reminds me a lot of what he's going to see. If you go back to 1998, Utah, Rick Majerus, legendary coach, they upset the top seeded and defending national champion Arizona Wildcats. They had a player named Mike Bibby. Point guard was a different type of player, but was still a gravitational player. Ended up going number two in the 98 draft. Majerus inserted this box and one defense to stop Mike Bibby. It had
Hmm.
really hadn't been seen before at that time, or was super rare, and it completely threw the Wildcat guard off his game, the entire team. So Mike Bibby was still a solid NBA player. That game had no impact on his draft status or how good of an NBA player he was, but it just goes to show that when you're at this level and you have teams like there's only nine other guys out there on the court with you, four on your side, five on the other
Hmm.
side, they are going to be locked in on you every move you get. So he's going to be getting on ball reps. He can get off ball reps. Like he is going to be the entire focus. So if he has a bad shooting night, like he's had, a couple of inefficient nights, that's because he doesn't have other creators that can get
Oh
him.
yeah.
He is everything. Like he is Tennessee basketball right now. Like he lists his favorite player as Kevin Durant. He's essentially Kevin Durant freshman year University of Texas Longhorns, where he was that team, got them to the big dance, right? Like it's just when you watch him, if he has a bad game, don't write him off. You have to put it into context. Nobody's going to ask him to come into the league and be
And
Luka
do what he's doing.
Doncic, right? He's probably going to be a third, fourth guy. He's going to spread the floor. He's going to give you open looks, and he can self-create. He is going to benefit from more spacing, better talent around him, other players pulling some of that gravity away from him and giving him a little more breathing room to operate. But he's a player who came out of nowhere, in my opinion. Um, and the more I've watched him, the more I've grown to like him. He might be my favorite player in this draft class. Um, he's top five on my board. To be perfectly honest, the Blazers got the number one pick and they took him, I'm not batting an eye just because of this draft class
But yeah,
and what the Blazers desperately need, which is a shooter.
shooter.
Um, I think it's not. Let's get into the offense right now, Sage. It's the offense that we're going to talk about first because that's what sets him apart. I think from
It's what, like, I said this on Blazers Edge Radio. I was there for their last episode. Tennessee's like the 76ers with Allen Iverson, and then the other one team remember when Isaiah Thomas was at the top of his powers, and then Boston Celtics had Marcus Smart, Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, and Al Horford around him. That's what Tennessee is. Dalton's just has to be. He's backpacked them scoring wise the entire year. I think the thing that is the most tantalizing is his ability to stretch the floor and hit long range bombs, because I feel like when he's scaled down, he's not going to have the responsibility of driving it 8 to 12 times a game to get free throws, but you know that he can drive it. It just isn't going to be part of his repertoire in the league. The scale down, I think, is going to be really beautiful for him because I think he's overextended as the Tennessee Volunteers, scoring like everything. Like, I don't think his dribble creation's good enough, but because of what Tennessee is right now, they need him to just be the sun to all of their stars or all of the moon. Like, they need him to score, and he's doing it. I think a scale down in his production is going to be really beautiful for him, especially like he's taking a lot of bad shots and is still shooting 39.7%. Like, he's still scoring at a pretty nice clip, even though he's taking some pretty bad shots. So offensively, especially in the shooting realm, I really have no fears with what he can do. Like, the scale down is going to be great for him. Like, he's not going to have to go to the line 8 times a game. It's going to be great. My thought process is he's not the best assist guy, and he's not the best rebounder. But what if he has an off night? I think he's gonna protect the ball and make smart plays. Like, I don't think he's gonna be Anthony Simons when he's off. There's nothing happening. I think Dalton Knecht can give you some pretty good passing, like as a connector piece. Even if he's not scoring, I think he can still rely on the fact that he's smart and can be a connector in a real scheme, which we don't have right now. But like if and when we have a real scheme, I think Dalton can be a really bright piece as a connector to set up other players as well. But with Tennessee, he just absolutely cannot. You know, if there's an open shot, he has to take it.
I love the shot. He has NBA range already. He shoots
Hmm.
it pretty effortless. It doesn't look like he has to put any extra oomph into his shot to get it out of his hands and get it to the rim from league range right now. He's a professional scorer. And when I watch players in college and I look at them, I'm like, are you scoring in NBA situations? When he just walks up into a three from 3 feet behind the college line, that's an NBA shot
That's that. Yeah, he's ready for it.
coming off of multiple screens, coming off of, back cuts. Those are NBA type of possessions where he's going to get the ball. He has an incredibly fast release. He has a high release. It's very difficult to block his shot. He also, when you mentioned if his shot's not falling, there's a couple things that I really like that he does. One, he gets to the mid range. He has
Mm.
a really nice one dribble pull up, and again, the release allows it for him to get off. Two, he's over 200 pounds, so he may not have the best handle in the game, but as we've seen with a player like Delano Banton, if there is at least a pathway and you can get straight line drive, he's over 200 pounds. He has the strength and physicality as a 23-year-old to handle contact, and he doesn't rely on athleticism to finish at the rim. He's not the best finisher, but he is an adequate finisher, and he can get to the rim that allows him to attack closeouts. So
Hmm.
teams have to really watch him. Like you can't just close out on him and know he's gonna get walled up. That throws another kind of wrench into the defense when they're looking at defending him. And he is getting 5 rebounds in 30 minutes a night. Like he could be a 6.5 rebound guy, and I think that's really solid for him right there.
I
I
think it's gonna be he's a pretty good defensive rebounder. He's a piss poor offensive rebounder because
He's
of
probably not being put in positions to
yeah,
win.
he absolutely isn't because he's shooting it from 30, so he's not gonna get the rebound. I really think that he can be a really nice connective piece towards an offense. And what do the Blazers really lack right now is connective pieces. Of course, he's going to hit threes and be really, really deadly from there. Like, I think that you have to close out on him day one. And he probably is our second best 3-point shooter if he comes into on the team and Anthony Simons is still there. I think Ant is ahead of him, but the way he can move, like, it's gonna if he becomes a Portland Trailblazers, it's gonna be kind of sad to just see him chilling in a corner and not being able to utilize like the movement abilities that he has. Like if we had a creative coach, I think that Dalton Knecht would be such a deadly tool to, you know, come off the bench for the first part of his year and just light it up. And if he proves that he can play defense at the next level, like he could be a pretty awesome like toolsy shooter and scorer. Like it if he goes to Portland, he's just chilling in the corner, and if he gets the ball, he gets the ball. So it's kind of sad in that way. But his shooting is pretty damn special, and the range and the confidence, like Chauncey Billups was taking all that shit away.
Well, this is a Chauncey free episode.
Uh,
Let's leave that. We've done enough. I get tired of talking about Chauncey. It just bumps me out. I like talking about the prospects and how they can flourish. I think a lot of big boards have him way too low. If I'm being frank, I think we need to stop penalizing players for being
Old.
of legal drinking age, and even adding a year or two to that. If this were the 80s or 90s, he's going top five, top three, right? Like players used to come out at his age. It's not a big deal. I think there's just this enamor with
Young and new.
organizations to find players at 19 or 20 and just say like, oh, we have all of this untapped potential. Dalton's a player who was starting to reach some of that potential when he was playing in junior college and in Northern Colorado. Like he's getting better. Like when you get a player at 22 or 23, but they've consistently taken steps to improve their game,
Hmm.
that to me says there's more room for him to grow. You don't think if there's a redraft in 2020 that Desmond Bane's going a lot friggin'
Yeah.
higher than 30th? like GMs overthink this way too often. I am guilty of this as well, but no more, especially in this draft. Like Reed Shepard is a for just context is a really great player. He
Mhm.
is 18, 19 years old. He's got 4 years left of quote unquote potential to get to. Here is one thing that Reed Shepard will never be. He
Six
will never
six.
be 6'6",
Yeah.
right? He's going to eventually become 23 years old, right? And that's what I think GMs need to think about. Like, you can't teach certain things. Like, you can't make Reed grow unless he gets this miraculous growth spurt,
Unless he
right?
gets shape ups, he's not going to grow that much. With Dalton, like the age could be a factor. If you think of like contracts, you're not going to get him for as many years. But let's remind ourselves of this draft class. It's
That's a
not
factor
like,
for Dalton, though, not for the franchise.
well, it's for the franchise because you don't get him as many years. But like with this draft class, age really like Kevin McCullers is going to be a first round pick. Devin Carter's a junior. Like COVID year players, like it's about to be the end of COVID players that are like good enough to be drafted. Like there's not going to be those Caleb Loves that play for like eight college years. So like because of all the context around his age, it's not that big of a deal. Like maybe next year if for whatever reason he didn't come out this year, which would be a huge waste of time. The age really doesn't scare me away. Like if we want to talk about lack of defense, yeah, that could scare me away, but the age isn't really a factor to me for this year with this context surrounding him and the fact that he's improved in every aspect that he has been thrust into from junior college to wherever in Colorado that you said to Tennessee. He went to a defensive minded team because he knew, hey, I suck defensively. Let's go to the team that cares the most about defense and let me learn how to play defense in a setting that is super close to being professional. Now, did he hit his goal of being a good defender? No, he didn't because he had to take on Luka Doncic levels of having to have the ball in his hands, but at least he acknowledges his faults. There's 19, 20-year-olds that will not acknowledge their faults, and Dalton knows that he's limited in certain aspects and tried to turn those weaknesses into net neutrals. Like, I'm totally cool with Dalton. If we dropped a little bit and ended up with 6, Dalton Knecht is awesome. I like
You
surround
mentioned
him.
yeah, the contracts. And again, I think that's another thing that GMs would be overthinking it because in theory, you're right. It does trim off the amount of time you can have with a player, but how many players play with the same team for 15, 10, even 10 years, right? We just got Dame for what, like 11 or 12, and that was just like felt like an eternity. It doesn't happen anymore with player movement. So again, I think it's another thing that GMs are overthinking. The Blazers are a team that they need to make the playoffs by 2028. Otherwise, that
Mm.
unprotected swap they get from the Bucks goes to the Bulls because of the Larry Nance trade. So they need to start thinking about players if they do want to maybe rebuild for another year because the 2025 class is loaded. They need to start to find players that can produce and
And
produce
fit into a role.
right away, fit
Mm.
into a role that you need. Like you can only have so many projects on a team. Like,
Mhm.
yes, there are some 19-year-old players in this class that I like, but at a certain point, you need to find players who are going to come in and they're going to be able to just know what to do. And
Mhm.
having a floor spacer like Knecht is just, I think, too tantalizing for the Blazers to not seriously consider. I think the few reasons why he's low, the age
It
and
has to be a factor.
the
Mm.
defensive concerns. I was watching an ESPN broadcast. They mentioned they rattled off a stat that he was rated out as the 23rd best defender in the SEC. Okay, that's not like terrible, but it's maybe like it's technically like a top three defender on a team in the SEC.
Mhm.
Um, he did go to Rick Barnes in Tennessee. You're correct to be coached. He wants to be a better defender. There have been some really eye roll moments from Dalton. I don't think he's ever going to get mistaken for a lockdown defender. But again, context. He is being asked to carry the entire offense.
Yeah,
No, only Jordan and LeBron during the 2016 finals, and maybe that's it. That have been like carrying the offense, and they're going to carry the defense. It doesn't happen. People aren't wired. Athletes aren't wired like that. That's the reason why they're considered the top two players of all time. So you can't have him being your entire offensive focus and then say, "Oh yeah, we need you to be a first team defender as well." Once his role is scaled back and he doesn't have to take all of that
mm-hmm.
usage, he's going to be able to put more energy into his defense. Now, I said energy because I don't think he's ever going to be that lateral OG
No,
Kobe type of guy, but defense a lot of the time is just will, want,
and
and
smarts.
a little bit of a drive. You got to be
Mm.
intelligent, right? You got to know where to be. You can hide him a little bit, play him off ball, and he's a worker. I mean, anytime you go from the junior college ranks
Mm-hmm.
to mid major to Power Five, like that shows work ethic. Like you don't just get better overnight, right? It takes
It's a long time and a long process in
it's
the
a
gym.
grind.
Mm-hmm.
And you best believe once he gets there, he's not going to be satisfied. So that's why I think there's just more there. Um,
So
I,
would you? Well, I don't know your top 10, but would you take Dalton over on?
those are probably my top two guys that I really like right now. I still like Cody, um, but he has really fell out of flavor in the Colorado
I think
rotation.
he's hurt. I think he's just legitimately hurt
He
and
is hurt.
playing.
He is wearing a face mask. Cody's got the highest upside of the three. I
So are
still
those your three?
I like those three, and I like Risa Shea. I'm really starting to worry about Sar. If I'm being the more I this will be a minor Sar tangent. The more I watch and think about him, like, what does he do? Are we just drafting him because he's 7'1" and can move? Because you're not drafting him for his offense or self creation. He's not
No,
a great rebounder, and he is not a Walker Kessler type of defender in terms of shot blocking.
no, he's just versatile and can defend on the
And
perimeter.
so when I think of that, I'm like, what separates him from Vis Misi?
Oh, you said something dirty to me there. I love you. Um,
Like, well, really though, why is one considered a top three prospect and one's like,
18.
yeah, like
Yeah.
so again, this group think mock drafts, these big boards, and I think GMs fall for it as well.
You know they're looking at Tankathon, they're looking at no ceilings, they're looking at the
It's
athletic,
the
all
same
that shit.
thing if you're like a Ducks fan and Mario Cristobal was the head coach. That dude chased stars. He looked at the recruiting rankings like, yeah, I can say we got a top 10 recruiting class. There were some players that they recruited that should not have been the star level they were, and the production matched it while they were on the field. Like I definitely do think these ratings and these lists play a factor. And I'm not saying
Oh, absolutely.
I do like Sar, but I think there's a much longer road for him to meet his draft position than maybe originally thought.
I
And so
it's tough
that's why
because
I like Dalton. I see a path, I see a role, I see a need.
it's a clear road for Dalton to hit his most likely outcome and ceiling outcome. Now,
And you
Sark,
need that clear role. Real quick, you need that clear role if you're Portland because you gambled on Shaden Sharp and he had a really solid rookie year, but then he got hurt and he still needs a lot of reps. Like we're still
mhm.
talking about going into year three, Shade needing reps. You kind of thought you had a sure thing in Scoot, but he needs more refinement than you anticipated as well. It's going to be really hard, I think, for whether it's, and I know I said I'm not going to talk about it, either Billups or a new coach to come in and now have three lottery picks that have a lot of questions about them.
Mhm.
That's why I really like Dalton because I think he can start to bridge some of that together.
I mean, I think his floor is just safe. And then he has a ceiling where he could be an all-star, maybe like a one or two time all-star if he has like an awesome year
Al
shooting.
Korver made an all-star team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like if Dalton Knecht is our draft pick, I'm totally content with him being the guy. Now, there's guys that have a higher ceiling, but they don't provide the shooting or the size that he has. And I think that Dalton is a guy that is a hooper. He might be 6'6", but he plays like he's 6'8", 6'9".
Plays
Like,
bully ball.
yeah, I really like the fact that he can go to the line and get free throws too, because Jesus Christ, there's so many guys that avoid contact so much on our team, and they drive to the hoop quite frequently and just avoid contact. He embraces the contact and gets to the line. I think those free points, like we talked about the Kentucky Tennessee game, I think those free throws saved his ass from having a pretty okay game, and in those like 11 free throws saved him from 20 points and a loss to 40 points and still a loss, but it's a lot closer. Like the fact that he knows I'm putting my head down and getting to the line and getting to, I really like him as an offensive player. And I think defensively, he could be better than what he's shown at Tennessee. Like there's flashes of him being an okay off ball guy. He's never like, I think that we run so much zone. I think he'll be just fine in zone. It's just, he probably is going to get hunted until he can prove that he can play defense at a net neutral ability. Like until he proves to the NBA and the players in that league that he isn't a bitch and can get punked on, he's probably going to get attempted to get punked on. Remember Lonzo Ball and Pat Beverly? Lonzo had to prove that he isn't, LeVar. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think I think because of how Dalton looks, he's probably gonna get they're gonna test him, and if he proves that he's worthy of it, I think you know what they're going to champion Dalton Knecht, just like they champion Reeves from Los Angeles. Like he just because of how he looks and his like great clipped haircut, he's gonna have to prove that he's worthy of being in the league.
Maybe great clips as part of his NAL package. So shout out Ben.
I mean, him and Reed Shepherd definitely have some great clipped haircuts, but it is what it is. I think that both of them. I think Dalton, he's a dog. He's gonna work really, really hard. He was in the fucking trenches for years trying to earn this opportunity at Tennessee. I mean, I had no idea who the hell he is a year ago, and you and I do about like 40 episodes about draft guys a year, I think. Like this dude really deserves like all of the opportunities that he's had. So I'm totally cool with Dalton being our guy. There are guys that I prefer more than him, but Dalton, like, he's safe. He shoots threes. Now, Chris Murray might not be safe if we take Dalton Knecht, but Dalton Knecht is going to be he's one of those guys that fits with Scoot and Shaden. I think the fit between those two is perfect because you've got a guy that, he's familiar in the paint, but he's not like paint dependent. He's going to be a guy that runs around and shoots threes. What's that?
It's with DA too.
Mm-hmm. And Jeremy.
You get that space.
Like he fits around with everybody. A 6'6" dude that can shoot threes and is athletic enough to do things. Like every team in the NBA wants that. Every team in the NBA wants that.
All right, let's talk some comps. What do you have? Yeah.
I got some weird ones.
Okay.
I think Austin Reeves is actually a pretty decent comp for him. Tim Hardaway Jr. and Buddy Hield. Like Buddy and Dalton are dominating the ball just the same way in college. And I think that Dalton and Buddy have the same ability to shoot threes. Now, Buddy might be a little bit better, but Dalton, like, he's younger, and I like the way he moves better than Buddy. Buddy's kind of plotting as a power wing. But the one that I think just maybe it's because I was such an LSU fan in the early to mid 2000s, but Marcus Thornton, a 2-inch taller Marcus Thornton, because they both do the same thing on the college floor. High usage rate, high offensive responsibilities to the team. Really can't rebound, but protects the ball like at an elite level. Not that many mistakes. Him and MT5, and Dalton's 2 inches taller and plays bigger, but their responsibilities offensively are so similar with the LSU team and the Tennessee team now that Marcus Thornton was like, God damn, am I watching a white 6'6" Marcus Thornton play basketball?
I'm going to throw it back a little bit further. He reminds me of a couple of players in the 90s. I just got through watching the Blazers and Jazz from 91. And when he goes into the mid range and he's got the high release, there's shades of Jeff Malone there. And Jeff Malone was just a smooth operator for the Bullets previously and the Jazz. And then when I see him get on these heaters and I see him pull up and just the physical nature that he plays when he goes to the basket and he can kind of put his shoulder in.
Mm.
A little Charlotte Hornet Glenn Rice there.
Glenn Rice was one of the best scorers ever, too.
So that's professional score is what I
So,
would.
so would you comp him like a 3-level scorer or just period scorer?
Yeah, I mean, the levels are now, I think, growing. If you want to talk about like off the dribble, step backs, but yeah, he 3 level, add the free throw line. Like he's just a scorer. Like he
Mm-hmm.
can really do it all. Um, I think once he learns how to finish at the NBA level, something that Scoot I think is desperately learning how to do
Mm-hmm.
right now. Um, he is going to just be kind of a pain in the ass. Like you're not going to want to go up against him, right? Like you're just going to be like, how does this guy keep doing it? Because he's not going to use his athleticism, but throughout time, and even in Blazers lore, we've seen players like Zach Randolph and Andre Miller,
Mm-hmm.
even CJ McCollum, figure out how to score around the rim despite not being able to jump more than 3 or 4 inches off the ground. Like
I think we're underestimating his athleticism. I think he's fine.
he is a fine athlete, but he's
Yeah.
not going to go down the lane and Ja
He's
Morant.
not Shaden Sharp, but he's not
No,
like Zach Randolph either. Like he's
no,
fine.
but in the NBA, you are going up against the most elite athletes
Yeah.
walking on this planet. So you may have fine athleticism, but you're still going to have to figure out how to finish
Oh,
over
absolutely.
Rudy Gobert. If you go back to Shaden's rookie year, he would just like attempt just to jump over everyone or just fly into people. It's kind of what we're seeing Scoot do right now. Then towards the end of his rookie year, especially in that game against Minnesota, Shaden's like, oh, I have to contort my body. I have to put
Mm.
some English on it. Like I have to use, different maybe launch points. Once Dalton kind of figures it out, and that's going to come with just experience and kind of getting his feet wet, then you're going to look at a player who's really going to be tough to close out on. Like you're going to have to decide, am I going to close out or am I going to leave him a little extra space? He's got that quick release. Again, I think as a third, fourth option, he's going to be just incredibly valuable. Definitely can play on championship level, starting on a championship level team. I think he's everything that you want on a championship
Awesome.
caliber team.
Yeah,
Yeah, he may
exactly.
not he may not be the sexiest pick, probably doesn't have the highest ceiling, but at a certain point, like you can't win with it. Just doesn't happen. You don't have 5 All NBA players on one team, and
Mhm.
if that's your draft philosophy, you're probably gonna just keep striking out. Like at a certain point, if you don't feel safe about another player's ceiling and then reaching it, take someone like Dalton, who you think still has a little bit left in the tank, but if it's almost like gambling. Are you okay
Lose
losing
it.
what you bet?
Yeah.
Are you okay if Dalton just keeps his floor? And if that's the case, yeah, pick him up because a lot of players either above him or below him on these big boards have much worse floors,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
players will be out of the league before their first contract is up. He is
Yeah,
definitely
like
going to get a
Stephen
second
Castle
contract.
could be all NBA player, but he also could absolutely suck. The shot might never come. Um, I see a lot of people on Twitter using like draft philosophies that work every year except for this. Like fit doesn't matter, fit doesn't matter. Take the best player available. But for this draft and this context with these players that are there, if there's a guy that fits like a glove, you should absolutely find your man and take him. Even if
Yeah.
you have to trade a lip up to get your man, get your man. Like if a team needs Reed Shepard, they should absolutely trade up and get him. There is no replacement Reed Shepard on this. Well, besides Jacoby, there is no other Reed Shepard clone. So like I think with this one, fit matters so much more. And the people that are saying it doesn't matter, you're not looking at this particular draft class the way that you should be looking at it because it's just the top level talent isn't there. There's going to be role players for sure that like, but there's not that top end talent. So if you identify the fact that Dalton Knecht can be a great piece, trade up and get him. Like find your man. There isn't that many there's how many 6'9" dudes can shoot, or he's not, but 6'6", 6'7" dudes that can shoot threes like Dalton. Furphy and Ricochet. That's it. So there isn't that many of those talented people. So if you find if GMs are listening, which I seriously doubt they are, find your man and get your man. None of this weight bullshit. If you've identified somebody that can absolutely help your team today, find them and get them.
I also think I'm normally best player available over fit as well. But in this draft, I agree with
This
you.
context changes everything.
And also, when you're a team like Portland or Houston, you've been in the lottery 3, 4 years in a row now. If you don't feel like there is a best player available, like let's say a forward and you already have Jabari Smith, or a shooting guard and you already have Shaden Sharp, if you don't feel like there's a player that's just, I can't pass on them, at a certain point, you need to identify players to build around those previous lottery picks, right? For Houston, they want to build around Jalen Green and Amen Thompson and Şengün and Jabari. We want to build around Scoot and Shaden. Like if you're that bought in on them and you don't think there is just a surefire player, like if it's best player available and it's like, oh, I think Isaiah Collier might just be a little bit better than Dalton Knecht. That doesn't make any sense because
You have Scoot. Yeah.
that gap isn't wide enough. The gap has to be Grand Canyon level wide for you to be like, okay, we're taking a point guard here. No,
is there a guaranteed all-star player in this draft? Guaranteed. I mean, like,
no, but I think guaranteed all-star is a very fine line to walk. Like I think just last year, we thought there were two. Guaranteed one was Wembanyama.
Yeah.
Like there's maybe one per class, like where it's just like, yes.
I'm just trying to like the ceilings on these guys are so much lower than in
it's a low ceiling draft.
Yeah. So I think fit has to matter in this particular draft. Now, next year it's going to be a lot better. Yeah, fit matters less. You should find the best player available and make, like I get it. But with this particular draft and the context surrounding it, you gotta adapt. With draft and doing draft analyst stuff for like years now, you have to adapt. Now, I would say in the past, I rarely watched I guess foreign basketball. I really never watched it unless like we had to. With this one, I watched Melvin Ingram. I watched all of these players play. So it has to be an adaptation. It can't just be like one singular rule like
you said Melvin Ingram, you have football in the brain.
Fuck, I do have football in the brain because it's Melvin Ajinka. Damn it. Yeah, well, football free agency's happening, so baseball, basketball, and football are all happening in my mind right now. So sometimes I forget. But yeah, I mean, this draft is interesting. Like
how
I'm
far
starting
do you
to
have
really dig it.
going in the tournament?
I think that when they reach a really good defensive team, I think the Sweet 16, I think, is where I put them in the bracket. Where did you have Tennessee?
I have them beating St. Peter's.
Mm-hmm.
I have them beating Colorado State.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have them losing to Creighton.
Yep, me too. Do you have Creighton going far? Because I have Creighton going far.
I have Creighton going to the Final Four.
Oh, I have them losing to Kentucky.
So one step further than you do.
Yeah.
No, I have Creighton going to the national championship game.
Yeah, I have them losing to Kentucky because Kentucky beats Houston and then Creighton beats Purdue. Creighton's fucking good.
Yeah.
They're like the top 10 offense and like a top 10 rebounding team, and Cockbrenner is fun to say. So I fuck NCAA for not giving us more Big East teams, damn it. But yeah, I think we can wrap this bad boy up. Do you have anything else you want to say about Dalton Knecht? I hope everybody enjoys the tourney. Virginia is really unpleasant to watch in a basketball context. Holy shit.
Yeah, I would just say enjoy the tourney. don't put too much stock in what you see unless you think it's translatable to the NBA level.
Yeah, like Dalton Knecht is not going to prove much in this tournament. He just can't. Tennessee has a glaring weakness in not having enough offense. So Dalton is their offense. If
Like
I'm an
here's a
NCAA team, I'm blitzing the shit out of them.
good example. 2 years ago, Keegan Murray was basically the same player at Iowa that Dalton Knecht is at Tennessee. Just the one guy.
Hmm.
Iowa goes on, wins the Big Ten tournament. They just have a bad game and they got upset in the first round. Keegan Murray still went number 4 in the draft and is still largely the same good player that we thought he was going to be. He's not an all-star, but he's a damn good fourth option
Hmm.
on a really good Sacramento Kings team who's capable of putting up 40 any night. Really good defender. Like it's just don't overreact, right?
Well, you can't do the Tyrus Thomas to LaMarcus Aldridge thing in this one.
No, you can't like be like, oh my God, this guy went on like a I love him, but like Shabazz Napier goes on this heater. Like
Hmm.
he's Shabazz is always going to be the same size and the same stature he was. He's never going to be a different body type, right? And
Hmm.
that type of play will work at the collegiate level, but like, are you going to put all of your usage into Shabazz Napier? Probably not. So like, you just put everything into context and just enjoy the games and always like go Ducks for me and let's hope for
I'm
some
actually
up.
mad at the Ducks for winning the tournament because I think that a Big East team could have joined, but it is what it is.
Gives a shit. Go Ducks.
I have them winning a game, so
Me too.
yeah.
Just
Do
out
you
of
have them
pure.
going far or just one game?
No, I did have them beating Creighton, but I didn't like my bracket, so I put Creighton there. I also forgot. I was like, oh yeah, Creighton has Trey Alexander, and he's a good college player, so I think he might have a good
I think
run.
they have three really good players on that team. I mean, Creighton only the depth scares me about Creighton, but they don't foul. Like Cockburner doesn't foul. So
You just want
like
to throw that last name in
no
there.
no Cockburner is a really good basketball player, but his name is awesome to say. Because I hear people on radio just saying cock instead of the whole name, but like he's a really good center in the NCAA, and then they have another white guy that
Baylor
shoots
Shireman.
three. Yeah, they have another. I think that's a good ass team. So, all right, let's wrap this one up. Thank you everybody listening. This will be out Friday or Thursday at like 11 p.m. But thank you all for listening. We had a podcast out talking about the Blazers in general, and then I dropped the Dylan Jones podcast as well. Check it out as a bonus episode on the Holy Backboard. And thank you everybody for listening. It is lunchtime. I will talk to y'all later. Bruce. Later.
Later.